3, 2, 1.
Okay, so this is the Sera-Steady. This is one way to transfer somebody from bed to chair, chair to bed, but usually they need to have some pretty good sitting balance. So if you're having to really hold somebody up and you have a bad fit, like if someone can't sit up on their own, they're probably gonna have a hard time standing. So this wouldn't be for somebody that requires like extensive assist, more like contact guard, minimal, sometimes mod assist, and then you'll want to use this with 2 people. So it's only 3 of us in the room, and Zach's gonna be my patient. So typically 2 people, and I'll show you why. So just quickly here, I'll show the back first. We have these 2 levers here that make the stand wider, so that way there's less risk of tipping. And then of course, if it's a smaller space, you can narrow the base there. And then on the wheels back here, you have your locks. So press down, both sides, pretty sturdy. These floors, it'll still kind of slide a little bit, but I'll show you when we lock these in a second. And then lastly, up here, when the patient stands, their shins and knees will kind of be supported by these guards there. They stand up using these horizontal rails to kind of pull themselves up. And then once they're standing up, you put down these flaps, and then they can kind of do like a half sit. And then you're off to your next surface. So I'll do a quick demo here with Zach. Make sure you got enough clearance from the bed to the floor so this guy can actually get under the bed. And what I'll do is cue the patient. We gotta make sure we don't pinch their feet, run over their feet, so that goes right on that platform there. And that looks like we have enough clearance. And you can get pretty close, but if you're too close, it's gonna actually be hard to stand. So I usually tell people like a little bit of distance there. Your shins are going to go up against these supports as soon as you stand up. And then I lock it so that way when they go to pull to stand, this thing isn't gonna be rolling around on them. And then so where 2 people come into play is one could be back here, kind of just supporting and cueing. The other person can be managing the device and maybe steering when we go to transfer. So. All right, so what I would cue, do you want to add anything at this point or no? Okay, so I just cue Zach, like, all right, Zach, if you can, hold here, 2 hands is great. And then when we count to 3, just gonna have you stand up. So 1, 2, good job rocking, 3, good. And then I'm gonna put down these flaps here and I can let Zach know, all right, Zach, you can kind of do like a half sit, you'll be supported now. Good. And you see these supports here will not let the knees buckle. So if they do fall, they're pretty if their knees do buckle, they're not gonna go completely through. So make sure those flaps are down, and then you can unlock. And then from here, I would have somebody steering, and then just one person just kind of trailing, just to make sure no one's going side to side or freaking out or anything like that. But it's pretty sturdy. This is also where I would maybe think about having that wider support there just to not risk any tipping over. And then we could go to a wheelchair, go front facing, make sure your wheel's on the wheelchair, get any distractions, barriers out of the way, There you go. Make sure your wheelchair is locked. It is. And then we'll go straight in. Oops, sorry. This wheel, turn the wheels the correct way. And then go in about as far as you can and lock it. So it's not gonna go anywhere. And then at this point, as long as they're over the seat there, you'll so that way when you remove those flaps, you'll have a safe surface for somebody to sit on. At this point, it'd be similar. Just be like, hey Zach, can you kind of go back to a stand for me? 1, 2, 3. Pull. Use those arms. They can use this one too, but this one's more for the caregiver that's steering. But sometimes they like to have that extra extension of their arms. And then you remove or pull up the flaps here. And then using that horizontal bar there, just kind of cue the patient to slowly sit down. Let them know the wheelchair is behind them. And they're there. Good job, Zach.